Hello everyone and welcome back to round 14 of the F1 1999 career mode. Yes, we're back this weekend here for the Mexican Grand Prix. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live a few days ago from Suzuka, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. But yeah, we return today here for the penultimate round of the season. Plenty more upgrades have been going on to the car in recent weeks. Try not to read too much into the actual performance of each team, but just look how much we have bumped our way up the order here. Of course, we've just got 2 rounds to go. It is all tied up between myself and Ralph Schumacher for P5 in the championship. We desperately want to try and get the better of our teammate, but I'm sure all eyes are on the other Schumacher. 12 points between him and Eddie Irvine with just 2 races to go of this season. I'm sure Michael, well, you mean if he wins both races, then pretty much guaranteed, I believe, that he will be champion there. He would have 6 wins to Eddie Irvine's 3 over the course of the campaign. So yeah, that is a critical one for him as well. Staggeringly, Mika Hakkinen, P2 last weekend, his best result of the season. Even David Coulthard has taken a win in this campaign. But yeah, we return to Mexico today, of course. This track used to host Formula 1 races back in the early 90s until it fell off the calendar. So I thought it would be fun to come back here. You know, we're going to try and race on some different venues as we continue through this series in the future. But yeah, penultimate round of the season. Irvine could technically win the World Championship today, but I think we're all hoping it goes down to the wire. Here we are then heading out onto the circuit here in Mexico City. This place never really got to experience the full V10 era, did it? Unfortunately, we got a 5-place grid drop this weekend due to those mechanical issues we suffered towards the end of the the Japanese Grand Prix last time out. So yeah, we're going to be starting further down than I would like, but that doesn't make qualifying any less important for us here, as curb usage is going to be really important. I feel like this place, though, could have worked really well for late 90s, early 2000s Formula 1. Of course, that monstrous front straight, you know, would have put a real emphasis on reliability as well. As we know, obviously, the altitude here in Mexico means that every single season it is a bit of a race of attrition. There is really struggling with the rear locking, apparently, through that tight complex. Feel like I've really, not figured out these brakes on this Jordan car throughout this 1999 season. I've struggled with it in a way that I never really seemed to with last season's Arrows. But on paper, I reckon this track could really suit our car if we could get a line hooked up round here. You can see Hakkinen just snatching away provisional pole position from Schumacher, so it is looking mighty close between the top group as we make our way through the final corner. But I think it is going to be Schumacher in a do-or-die situation who takes pole. We already line up P8 once again. Well, there we go. It is a Schumacher front row lockout here in Mexico City then. Ralph Schumacher getting Jordan's first front row start, I believe, of the year. So clearly the car has got some pace around this venue. Jordan, are we finally back? Has it taken us all season to develop a car that can fight? We're going to be starting down in P13, so Ralph, he's got a massive opportunity to pull out some big points on me before the season finale.
Here we go then, it's time to race in Mexico City, a place which gave Honda their first ever victory back in 1965. American Richie Ginther won from 3rd on the grid. And what are the Honda-powered cars this year? Well, Red Bull have been going strong here in recent seasons, so can they keep that record going today? The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, 2.6 miles of track that allows drivers to take full advantage of their cars, reaching speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour, and providing lots of opportunities for overtaking. The circuit features 17 corners, 10 to the right and the remaining 7 going to the left. Now, Anthony Davidson, I wonder, might we be in for some early pit stops today from the midfield teams, all trying to put some pressure on or disrupting things for the leaders up front?
If you're in the middle of the pack, you know, you got your own race to run. I don't think they're going to be thinking about causing trouble up front. However, closer to the head of the pack, don't be surprised to see some split strategies. If you're running second and third, for example, bringing one car in for an undercut while leaving the other one out there longer can put a lot of pressure on the leader and maybe force them into an error.
Well, I'm starting to believe that after our mighty strong start to the year, Ralf Schumacher is literally going to come back and beat me out by the end of the season, and we're going to look like the worst of the Jordan drivers. It's very, very rare in any series that I lose to my teammate, but that just goes to show you how difficult this series has been. And with him starting on the front row and me down on row 7, I certainly don't have high hopes for our own results today. Waiting, though, on the grid for the 5 red lights here in Mexico City. It is going to be lights out, and away we go. Trying to get away with as little wheel spin as possible, but not doing a particularly good job, as Jacques Villeneuve will immediately say thank you very much and relegate us into P14. Excluding the back markers, we are last as everyone trying to flank their way to the inside of turn 1. We won't be last for very long. What on earth has happened? Schumacher's gone.
We need to keep a positive delta here. Slow down, maintain a positive delta.
What on earth happened there? Well, I literally said about Ralf Schumacher, and he's gone for a dive at turn 1 and gone straight into the back of Eddie Irvine. I don't quite get how Coulthard got a penalty for that, but suddenly now we might have a chance of beating our teammate. As you can see, everyone having to flock around him. Look at that, way too hot in, and has caused a roadblock as we're suddenly P4. So I've just realised as well then, it wasn't actually between Irvine and Ralf Schumacher, it was between both of the Schumachers down at turn 1, as we've still got a few more drivers retiring from the race. We're down to just 16 runners here, but suddenly, yeah, one Jordan from battling at the front of the field. Now it's the others' chance to shine. Well, as we start lap 2 then, virtual safety car has been removed, and I tell you what, we've actually probably got the pace to match McLaren here once again, like we saw at Suzuka. Around these much higher downforce circuits, of course, I think we've actually got a better car through the corners than that McLaren team. And, of course, I mean, they can get up to top speed slightly quicker than us, but we're all limited to 200 miles an hour unless you're a Ferrari, so there's a real chance. Well, there you go, for reference, then Eddie Irvine's done a 23.3. Even with a couple of little mistakes, we've done a 24.3.
1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone.
I think if we can get up to pace quite quickly here and get into a good rhythm, and if those Ferraris have a bit of a squabble, there is an opportunity today for a win, which would be huge for the season we've had. Well, we saw at Suzuka last time round inside the final few laps that Coulthard, we were actually quicker than him, and I would say now, after even just doing a few laps here, this is probably a stronger track for us than Suzuka was. Slightly lower speed and a lot more low-speed corners, which really do play into our hand. I mean, it has taken an entire year of development on this Jordan car, but I think we finally cracked it, and hopefully we're going to be able to kind of reap the fruits of our labour towards the end of the year. Eddie Irvine, 23.2. Even with a huge moment, we were only a couple of tenths off. Well, one thing that has certainly still not left this Jordan is its ability to feel like it's constantly hanging on a knife edge here. Pretty much every corner around this lap, you're having to kind of use the brake and the throttle to try and tip it through. But the gap to Mika now starting to come down reliably. The gap to Schumacher as well, it kind of moves around a bit more. But I think that Ferrari might actually be the worst of all 3 cars in the corners. It's just got more straight line speed. Well, Eddie Irvine at the front of the field, he's just stretching his legs. It is fastest lap after fastest lap for one of the Ferrari drivers. Clearly trying to put Michael Schumacher in his place as the number 2. I'm still monitoring that gap to Michael. It is not moving around much whatsoever. It's staying about 4 seconds, but if I get a lap nailed, it does come down. Only problem I've got, of course, is we've got to try and find a way around Mika Hakkinen before then, and that thing absolutely takes off out of the corners. Yeah, it is a little bit unpredictable, this car. So we'll try and and get a run on the exit of the S's. We're gaining in on Mika more and more, despite how bad this lap has been. But yeah, as we're about to start lap 10, we've got to find a way around him. Oh, there we go. That's going to be a way around him then. Mika Hakkinen peels into the pit lane. So does Eddie Irvine. Are some of the AI 2 stopping today? Tyre wear, we know how brutal it can be around this venue. We're having no such problems so far. But, I mean, I've said it so many times. This Jordan's such a good car on its tyres, despite how much we're sliding around all over the road. Irvine, though, and Coulthard in for a very, very early stop. There we go. Are we going to see Michael Schumacher into the pit lane as well then? Yes, we are. Everyone else is peeling into the pit lane way earlier than I was ever expecting in this GP. So we're going to take the lead here in Mexico City. But the team had always told us a one-stop was viable. We're going to stick with it and kind of just see what happens. Maybe the AI are going to be able to go to the end. But that is a very long way on a set of hards. Okay, yeah, Irvine's cooking. He's down into the 1 minute 22, so he's definitely still going faster than me, despite being on those harder tyres.
Is lapping faster than us by around 1 second per lap.
Yeah, we probably still don't have a look in at the race victory today. That Ferrari is just in another league. Well, rounding our way then through the final couple of corners, we have finally made it to my pit-in lap. I've been sat kind of doing the maths in my head over the last few, trying to work out what could happen. Oh, in this race there, is very careful not to get a 5-second penalty. If Irvine and Ferrari have to pit again, which I'm still not entirely convinced they will, then we've got a chance. If they don't have to pit again, we've got no chance here. They are going to walk away with it. But if they do have to pit, Irvine, at the rate he's been going, is going to catch me up on the final lap of the GP. He's about half a second a lap faster, and with 20 laps to go, the gap was down to about 10 seconds. We've got the pace over McLaren. We don't have to worry about them, unless, of course, I make an error, which, let's not mark that out of the round as a possibility. But yeah, we're managing the fuel well. We can go more aggressive on that in the second half of this race. But it is really now just a patience game of seeing what Ferrari do in terms of strategy. And now we're just in this really horrible limbo in this race. We'll only really find out probably with 10 laps to go as to what Ferrari are doing if they're going to pit. But, I mean, we can try and take some time out of Michael. Tell you what, we're setting good lap times. That is almost new fastest lap of the day. Unfortunately, Michael and Eddie are basically doing the same things as well. So, I want to believe, I so desperately want to believe that after all the pain of being mired in the midfield throughout most of this season, can we finally showcase the work Jordan have put in behind the scenes? Or are we once again going to come up short? Okay, now we've got to try and deal with some lap traffic then, so we might get a little bit of extra speed off of Mark Genet. Nope, still stuck at that 200 mile an hour mark. Thank you very much, Mark. No! What's he done? Mark Genet's just collected me. How on earth they give me a warning for that?
Safety car is out. Reduce speed and maintain a positive delta.
I don't honestly get how we can get so much bad luck in this series. I tried to take a look, but Mark Genet's replay simply just would not find it. So my guess is, of course, he let me through and then tried to brake later than me down in turn 1. Somehow we haven't lost a wheel in the process of all of that going on, because I immediately, when the red light flashed up, I thought we were about to be out of this Grand Prix. But Ferrari now, if they want to box again, are going to be under much less pressure to do so. Well, as we reach 2/3 distance, I'm scared now to lap cars, wondering what on earth they're going to do to me once I get round them. Shinji Nakano is next up on the old hit list, as we're trying to use the rich revs more and more around the lap when we're on the straights. Come on, Nakano, just get on with it. Just get off the line, please, man. Thank you. Please don't do what your teammate did and run into the back of me.
12.4 seconds.
He almost did exactly the same thing then. That my light flashed before my eyes. Oh, Irvine in. Eddie Irvine is into the pit lane then, so confirmation. Ferrari are 2-stopping in this Grand Prix, but what will the gap be between myself and the Ferrari driver as we can't even go quicker again on my fastest lap? There is Eddie Irvine, so we are out and up into P2, but not by much at all. We are going to have a fight on our hands towards the end. On Jean Alesi, get out of the way. Please don't do what Genet and Nakano tried to do. Oh, Jean Alesi, so much experience behind the wheel of that Sauber, and still scaring the life out of me as Schumacher then into the pit lane here with a little over 10 laps to go. You can see the gap to Irvine has stayed pretty level this time through. But we have to factor in, Irvine, of course, has had to try and build up some temperature. Surely we're going to be able to beat out Michael today. But will there be any controversy towards the end of this? Or can Jordan take their first win in a long old while? Oh, Irvine, new fast lap of the day. He's less than 2 seconds behind me.
Just posted the fastest lap of the race so far.
He's not running much quicker than me, but he is certainly quicker, and unfortunately, he's way quicker than me in the bit that's really easy to overtake on. Come on, Johnny, please, thank you. Now get in the way. Get in the way of Eddie Irvine through this middle sector, please. We're praying that the AI work with me here. I'm not holding my breath, though. I mean, this is the problem we've got at the moment. I'm monitoring the gaps around the lap as Irvine, yep, dips into the 121s. He gains 4 tenths on me down the straights. The rest of the lap is even, as Schumacher now going quicker than the pair of us. So, it feels like we've got, what, 3 more laps before Irvine gets past me, and there's a sense of inevitability to it. But only 8 more laps to go. I guess the only good thing is, of course, we know Irvine will struggle as he gets into our dirty air here as we try and thread our way through these final few corners. If you thought that final sector was difficult in a modern Formula 1 car with traction, you know nothing. Because in this thing, it just feels like you could spin at any possible moment. But yeah, you can see that time around Irvine not going much quicker than me. Schumacher, though, is still gaining in on the pair of us. We've just got to keep him half a second back as we make our way out onto that straight. We've still got more blue flag traffic to deal with here as we reach lap 30, but I want to start believing that there's a chance here. Irvine, that gap is not coming down much anymore. He can get just that little bit closer each time through, but he is struggling more and more to try and hang close to the back of us. So I think that Ferrari really getting affected in the dirty air. Like I said, the downforce levels on it I don't think are as good as either our car or the McLaren as Wirtz tries to have a look back down the inside. Really, I've come used to that. Oh, something's happened. I think Wirtz has gone. Well, riding on board then with Alexander Wirtz, the German, is going to let me by as we make our way down in towards the final chicane. Just run a bit too deep. And Eddie Irvine, they're going to come together. Irvine is out of this Grand Prix with just a handful of laps to go. Michael Schumacher suddenly might leave here with the World Championship lead. Well, I guess when you look back at what's happened to Schumacher? Schumacher's now seemingly ran into problems as well. He's now 15 seconds behind me here under the virtual safety car, so I can only assume he got a little bit stuck trying to find his way around Irvine and Genet's stricken cars. But suddenly now, Michael Schumacher looks dead set to take the World Championship lead, and when you think about it, he had 1 mechanical failure and he got taken out by a lapped car. Eddie Irvine now has had 1 mechanical failure and has been taken out by a lap car, but suddenly, with 6 laps to go here in Mexico, surely this win is now ours. Giancarlo Fisichella, I do not want any trouble. I do not want any problems with you, sir. I will sit behind you for a little bit, or you can let me by, whichever you'd prefer. Michael Schumacher, though, he has got the bit between his teeth still. What is that? Giancarlo, please do not scare me like that late on in the Grand Prix. Schumacher would need to go 2 seconds a lap faster than me if he wants to get to me by the end of this. So we've got more yellows out. Someone else breaking down? As we make our way through the stadium section then to start the last lap of the Mexican Grand Prix. I'll be honest, you know, I'm looking at the gap Michael Schumacher's closed down towards the end of this race. Had Marc Genet not taken me out, I think we would have had the pace to win this one anyway on our superior one-stop strategy. I mean, look at the gaps, though. between the top 5. Jacques Villeneuve, a minute 12 seconds behind me. I'm pretty certain he's the next car we can see going around the circuit just up the road. But what an afternoon it has been here in Mexico after we took victory in Monaco. And then obviously the game reset and we lost everything. I really did then think after a couple more results that we simply were not going to win again with this Jordan team this season. I thought Hungary might be a good opportunity, but so many power-sensitive circuits really did hamper our progress throughout this season. We had a good run last time at Suzuka. We saw some pace and some promise in the car. And as we came here to Mexico City, I wasn't expecting this to be a particularly good track for us, but clearly it has been. A little bit of luck sprinkled in. I would be really intrigued to know whether we've been able to hold up Eddie Irvine towards the end of the afternoon. But as the confetti flies, Eddie Jordan's team, we're going to be back on top once again as we round our way through the final couple of corners. We're going to get one last victory in before the turn of the millennium. We are Grand Prix winners here in Mexico City.
Another win for the team at Renault today. Really impressive stuff. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
Well, when you overtake that many people, I'd certainly hope you'd win the race. Their car was really effective in the slipstream here today, and the team would be pleased that they didn't cook the engine, given how long they were spending in the hot air behind other cars. They had a lot of confidence to push their tyres hard as well, especially going into the corners, which allowed for some late braking and some exciting passes.
Here come today's winning drivers, and what a race it was. This is a team that knows success very well in F1, and they're just itching for even more. Congratulations to the Renault team for their excellent win today.
Well, there we are then, the end of the Mexican GP, and finally we have returned to the top step of the podium in this series. Michael Schumacher, P2, though, is a big result for him and his championship hopes, with David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen third and fourth. A relatively quiet weekend from them, but I'm sure they'll be happy to have picked up some decent points there. Jacques Villeneuve ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, with both Saubers, Nakano and Riccardo Rossi picking up a point for BAR at the rear of the top 10 there. That means, yeah, with one race to go, suddenly we've got an opportunity to try and beat Mika Hakkinen in the championship, and basically now can't lose to Ralph unless he has a miracle run through the final weekend there. But at the top of the table, it is winner takes all between Schumacher and Eddie Irvine, all to play for between our top two. We could theoretically beat out DC, but we need a P2 finisher for him not to score. Further down the order, though, Jacques Villeneuve re-jumps Jan Magnussen, so I think Williams now ahead of Stuart Grand Prix once again in the constructors' standings. Jean Alesi jumps Wirtz, and of course, yeah, as we saw, Nakano and Rossi picking up a couple of extra bonus points as well for their teams. That means Minardi jumped BAR as well in the all-important battle at the rear of the field. But as we head into the final round, I don't believe we can finish higher than P3 anymore, even with the full 44 points. Actually, no, we would jump McLaren on countback, wouldn't we? So technically not out of that, but I'm certainly not going to hold my breath. There's 8 points between Williams and Stewart. I think that is going to be one of the battles to watch out for, as well as Benetton and Sauber tied up on 28 points apiece. But thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon when Formula 1 returns ready for the finale in Brazil.